Hello and welcome to Tricks of the Earth Trade channel. Today is the 29th of November 2017, and in today's feature we're featuring Marion Jones. Now Marion Jones is an athlete, as you guys might as well know. We call her she for now because that's what she goes by, and we're gonna put Marion Jones to the test to see if she stands up to the fact that she is the gender she claims, which is female. And by the end of the video, I believe you guys will also come to notice that Marion Jones is actually male. Now, before we go any further, today's video is the myth of whiteness part 12. So if you're new to the channel, you're a new subscriber, and you're picking up this video to watch, you may not understand a lot of things that I'm going to say in this particular video, because you need to watch the myth of whiteness from part number 1, and this is part number 12 as it is today. Now, on today's myth of whiteness series, we're going to be taking a look at we've had some stereotypical let's say thinking that, you know, the white supremacist elite has passed on to everybody in the world, and they've made us they've always told us that blacks have treated black people naturally as being inferior. And today we're going to be looking at certain things that do show that they know for a fact that is not true, and we're going to show you that you may not have been noticing. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is the fact that we find out that in athletics, black people generally tend to exceed more than the others. And we want to look at the scientific facts of why that is the case today. Generally, people always give a stereotypical way of saying that blacks, you know, are far better athletically or in anything else by saying BB genetics. All right, I don't want to add the suffix that gonna make the sentence, you know, go off course, but you guys know exactly what I'm talking about when they say BB genetics. So whatever acronym that you want to define to that, you know what I'm saying. So they say, okay, he has BB genetics, that's why he's that, you know, he looks the way he looks, or she looks the way she looks, and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to take a look at it scientifically today, because I've been talking on these videos for a very long time about the fact that, you know, blacks generally have more bone density because of the melanin contents that they have, and other things that you guys may not know scientifically, just to show you that the superior genetics, all right, is always going to be the black genetics, because we are all black. And like I've said before, that white people are just albinos. Now, the reason why a lot of people may not come to that term is because white supremacy, in its elite way of, you know, running the world today, decides to use the term white as a race instead of using the word albino, because the word white came from the meaning of from a Latin word which was albus, meaning white, which was used synonymously to indicate a genetic abnormality. And since white supremacists don't want people to know, being that they are being led of the devil themselves, and that in which the Vatican, you know, runs the world, and the devil leads the Vatican, they don't want people, or the white people that they're using around the world, to actually run it and put themselves in power, to know the reason why they are white. So they use the term white instead of the word albino, which would indicate a genetic abnormality which everybody with straight hair has. And somebody may ask me the question, why do I say that? Because that is fact, and I say that based on what the Bible says, because you have to come to understand that if we're created in the image of God, all right, the image of God, as the Bible indicates, is woolly hair. So that means anything other than woolly or straight hair means you're an albino. It doesn't make you less of a human being or anything at all, as is being you know, bandied around by so many crazy people out there on the internet. For example, the Hebrew Israelites call white people Edomites, which is totally wrong. They have not come to the fact that there is a place in the Bible which actually tells them that Edom is their brother. And if that is opened up to the world, then that theory of the Hebrew Israelite claiming white people to be Edomites goes out of the water. And let me just show you guys that before we go any further. So the part of the Bible in which I'm trying to talk about, in which blows out the Hebrew Israelite theory that white people are Edomites out of the water, It's taken from Deuteronomy chapter number 23, and I'm reading from verse number 7. You can read in the Geneva Bible or the King James Bible. It says, "Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother. Neither shalt thou abhor an Egyptian, because thou wast a stranger in his land." But the part I want you guys to take notice of, it says that the Bible clearly states here that you shall not hate an Edomite, right? So if the so-called Hebrew Israelites, fake Hebrew Israelites today, say that an Edomite is a white person, and they're abhorring him and saying that he's the problem or is the problem, because all this is constructed by the Vatican to confuse people on the subject of humanity, our humanity. Because the white elite, let me put that right, the white elite in the Vatican, all right, being led of the devil, is trying to confuse people on the subject of humanity. So they're putting this hate in place, like I've always said before, to maintain a population that can put them in power, that places them in power. And so for the Hebrew Israelite, if you actually say that you follow the Bible and you follow the 5 books of Moses, all right, which makes you a Jew, all right, because you're under the practice of the Torah. If you say you're practicing the Torah, as the Hebrew Israelite says, and you abhor an Edomite, in which you claim that white people are Edomites, then you have mistakenly very wrong, because under Moses, under the laws of Moses here, which you guys are practicing as Hebrew Israelites, it says, "You shall not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother." So that concept of, making white people out to be Edomites as the enemy by the Hebrew Israelite goes out of the window, goes out of the door. That's totally wrong. So that's just what I wanted to show you guys before I move on to talking about a lot of things, because people, maybe if you're watching this video and you see the title saying "Myth of Whiteness," and a lot of people will say, "Here he goes again," or "Here we go again with the myth of whiteness." Aren't we tired of talking about the myth of whiteness? No, we shouldn't be tired. Because the one thing that has misconstrued our reality most, that has been put in place by the devil using the white albinic elite in the Vatican and the white albino elites, I call them white and albino at the same time, but I'm trying to say the albinic people who actually run the world, because this should be the right terminology, is that they have introduced the concept of race, which is a social construct and doesn't exist. There is no such thing as black, white, Caucasian, Asian, or other races like that. What we have are ethnicities. There is no race. Because once we come to understand that the subject of race doesn't exist, that we are all one people, and that we are all black people, and that white people are just albinos of blacks, then you start seeing the bigger picture of God clearly. You start seeing the fingerprints of God on creation. So that's why I spend this much time, all right, to explain that the myth of whiteness is actually a myth. Because once you come to understand that, then you can see God clearly. That God created all of us, and he created us in his image, which is a black man with woolly hair, which he is. So when we spend this much time on the myth of whiteness, because you have to understand, like I've said before, that there are 2 things that, the white supremacist elite, Albanic elite, has put on the masses, which has made people to be so brainwashed and confused about the subject of creation and why they're here. Is one is race, and the other important thing is the world being flat, right? So they've introduced race and that the world is a globe. So those are the 2 greatest lies that has, made humanity to be so lost and confused. So if we take out the most important one, which is race, then the globe automatically is going to fall. Because the subject of race, when it's taken out, shows you the fingerprint of a creator. And you can actually see and understand that God created this world. So once you take that out, then the whole idea of the globe, the world being a globe, doesn't exist anymore. Because you can actually see that we are one human race, a black human race, and there is no such thing as the so-called races that the white supremacist Vatican, the white albinic elite, have put in place to keep themselves in power. So that's why we tackle this, and we won't stop tackling it until we reveal everything that has to do with the myth of whiteness, that is a myth and it doesn't exist. that race is a social construct in your mind. And one of the things I would always like to tell people is that if you need to deprogram yourself, because the reason why we're so much brainwashed in the world today is because we are repeating after what the elite, all right, are telling us to do. So we use their words. So for example, you can see that on your TV screens every day, terrorism is being bandied around, such terms as African American, some terms of black, some terms as white, and we repeat after. When you keep on repeating after what these people say, all right, then you imbibe that mentality. So you have to, in order to deprogram yourself, you have to create your own vocabulary. Don't say what they say. Say what you say, all right? Make up your own words. Don't repeat after what they're telling you to say, okay? So now, if it's your first time on our channel and you've watched the video up to this point and heard all that, besides that, the fact that this is the myth of whiteness part 12, I would like you to pause this video at this very point in time and go look for the primer video. If you're a new subscriber, the primer video is the most important video that you have to watch on this channel before you even continue watching on the myth of whiteness to get up to speed to the part 12 that is on right now. So I'm going to show you how to get to the primer video, and then after that we'll continue on talking. So please pause the video if you're a new subscriber right here. Please pause the video and go look for the primer video, which I'm going to show you. There's a playlist on the channel that's called Primer as well. You can look for it on the channel, and that will play that particular video for you. And when you're done watching that video, you can come back and continue watching this particular video. But if you want to catch up to speed, you have to watch the myth of whiteness from part number 1, because this is part number 12. So let me show you how to get to the primer video. So this is the primer video. The playlist, there's a playlist on the channel. You could actually look for it. It's called Primer. The primer is the oldest video on this particular channel. When you click on this video, all right, or any other video that you pick up to watch on this channel, there is a link in the description section, all right? The link in the description section is going to lead you to a document. The document is called Male versus Female Visual Differences. Now, it's a very important document that I ask that you guys read. If you're really interested in the subject of transgenders, which we cover in the bit part on this particular channel, all right? So you need to have this document. It's about 44 pages long, I think so, but we guarantee it will take you 30 minutes or less to go through it, because it just has a lot of pictures. It will show you the visual differences between male and female. And the most pertinent that you must come to understand, if you don't have time to read through the document, is that one, that a female is skeletally designed to give birth. All females in the world, regardless of their ethnicity or color, are designed to give birth. And because of that design for a woman to be able to carry children and bear children, she is skeletal designed in such a way to make that easy. So one of those things that you would notice on a female is that a female has an arch in her back. Now, why is the back of a female arch and not straight or flat like a man? Is because the pelvis of a woman is tilted forward. You notice this on most females. If you start looking at a female from the front, you will notice that from her belly button, it starts slanting downwards into her pubic region. So that's the reason why, because that's that pelvic tilt allows for a female to be able to carry children, to be able to get pregnant, and also for a baby to stay inside the pelvic region or the womb without dropping out. Because if the pelvis was straight, the baby would come drop right out of the womb and would not be able to stay. Now, since males are not able to give birth, they are not designed to give birth, males have straight pelvises. Every pelvis of a woman is tilted forward. Some can be subtle and some can be so ominous that you see it, but regardless, there is a tilt in the pelvis of a woman. So that's what you have guys have to remember. Then secondly, the female hip is below the crotch of a woman. Why? Because the hips do not have to be in the way when a woman is about to give birth, because she needs to spread her legs apart, all right? And if the hips were up above the crotch, it would interfere. It would reduce the female canal, and the baby would not be able to come out of there. it would be blocked because there'd be something in the way. So that's why the hips of a female are below the crotch, and that's where her Q angle starts. All right. So those are those two major things that you have to notice in the differences between male and females. Because for a male, the hips are above the crotch, because the male genitalia needs to be outside the body temperature for it to function optimally. Without that, it can't function. So that's why the hips are like where the body ends. All right. So for a man, it's above the crotch. Right. So that's what I want you guys to take notice of before we get into this document. And since we're in the subject of transvestigation of Marion Jones, a popular female athlete who's won so much medals and who also confessed to the use of steroids, we'll let you know the reason why she confessed to using steroids is because of what we're about to do right here. So we start the transvestigation just to show you the differences between a man and a woman. So here is a female to my left on my screen. As you can see, she has an arch in the back. That arch is always going to be shaped like a C. If you're drawing it just from below, or let's say right below the rib cage, if you're drawing it up higher from the shoulders, it's going to be an S-shaped right spine that a female has. So a female always has an arch in the back because the pelvis is tilted forward, and also the arch is extra support for the weight of carrying children. The reason for the arch also is because the spine of a female is flexible, so she can carry that weight of children without having problems walking, giving birth, or tumbling over. That's the reason for the C-shaped arch in the back or the S-shaped arch in the back. So I want you guys to remember those letters. A woman has a C-shaped arch in the back or an S-shaped arch in the back. Now, males do not have any arch in their back because the pelvis of a man is straight. It's not tilted forward like that of a female. So a male's back, if he wants to arch, is going to arch outside. A female's back arches inwards. A man's back arches outside. So if a man's back wants to arch, he's going to arch in such a way that you have the letter D. Like you can see here, there's a D-shaped back or a P-shaped back, completely straight into the straight pelvis. So that's what I want you guys to always remember when you're doing your transvestigation. Now I'm going to scroll forward into the document just to show you those little bit of details about a female's back always arching more than that of a man. As you can see right here is a female kneeling down, and there's an arch in her back, a deep C arch in the back, because she's a woman. All right, the pelvis is tilted forward. It doesn't matter if the female is big or small, tiny. It doesn't matter what color she is or ethnicity. There's always going to be an arch in the back of a female, as I intend to show you as I'm scrolling through this document, which you guys are to study and read. So here is a big female to my left. As you can see, the pelvis is tilted forward, like you see right here, that angle that I was trying to talk about. That if you look at a woman from the front, you notice that from her belly button, that the pelvis starts slanting inwards down into her pubic region, right? That's what you see because the pelvis is tilted forward. Without the pelvic tilt, a woman can get pregnant. So here is a small female. You can see there still see that C arch in the back, and the pelvis is tilted forward. If the female's got muscles, she's on a ton of steroids, so walking fantasy, as so many female bodybuilders are with a lot of muscle, nothing can change the skeletal structure. Because once the sex is determined at conception, nothing can change that skeletal structure. It always will remain male. If it's male, it will always remain female. There's no such thing as androgyny in the womb, or that we're born male or we're born female at conception, and then by the time we mature and come out of the womb, the sex is determined. There's no such thing. Once that egg meets a sperm, okay, the sex is set, and nothing can change that skeleton. The skeletal structure determines the sex, and not the sex, the skeletal structure. So I want you guys to remember that. So muscular females, you can see right here, arch in the back. Muscular female, arch in the back still, and nothing can change that. So I'm going to play the next clip to show you where the female hip location is at and how females get measured into clothes. Then from then we can dive onto the subject of actually putting Marion Jones on the map to see if she fits what she says she actually is. Let's go. So here is the video that I want to play, the short clip to show you how a female's hips are measured and how she fits into clothes, because this is standard anywhere in the world. I mean, clothes are made everywhere around the world, then they're shipped to different countries. And you have to understand that if the hip of a female has varying places in her body, all the clothes that are sewn around the world and flooded all the markets around the world would not fit into any female wearing them, because they wouldn't be able to fit the hips, because you have varying places for where the female hip is on the body, which is not the case. It's standard. Every female hip is below the crotch. It's not above it. Below, because that's where it's supposed to be if you're a woman. As you can see right here is a female, and she's spreading downwards. And usually females always start spreading downwards from under their elbows. And the widest point is always going to be the hips, which are below the crotch. So this female is going to be measured for you to see where that hip is at. And as you can see, the tape goes round right there, and the widest point is below the crotch, not above it, below the crotch. Now the female is going to turn around for you to see where that is at the back, and she spins right around. As you can see, that is slightly above the bum line but below the crotch. That is where the Q angle of a female starts, below the crotch, just slightly above the bum line. So if you're doing a transvestigation and you get confused about the picture that you're looking at, because you're looking at the front and you can't really determine if the hip is above or below, try to see if you can find a picture from the back. Because when you look at a female or a man from the back, you're actually going to know that's a female and that's a man, because of where the hip is at and where the Q angle starts. Now remember, the Q angle is an angle between the hip and the knee, all right? So wherever you find the hip of a man or a woman, that's where the Q angle starts. And the Q angle of a female is always going to be more acute than that of a man. Why? Because the pubic arch of a woman is wider so that a baby can come out of the womb. Now, because of that wide pubic arch, in most cases, which is always 120 degrees minimum, it's going to push everything in the female pelvic region further apart. And that's the reason why there is more acute Q angle in that of a female than that of a man. A man's Q angle is going to be high above the crotch. So if this was a man, this Q angle wouldn't start right here, as you can see. It would be farther up into the body, right around this, so far away from this bum line that you see on this female. And then you can determine that that is a man. So let's move further and take a look at Marion Jones. So for us to take a look at Marion Jones, we decided just to start off by showing you guys something from a wiki page. Now, before I go any further on this particular video, this is the part that I have to put out warnings on this particular channel. You have to understand that on this channel that we do not slander people. So you just can't leave a comment in the comment section and say someone is a transgender, that person is a boy or girl, without showing us facts. Because this is an educational channel and we want everybody to learn as they get on the channel and even read the comments as well. So if you're going to say that someone is a transgender, all right, you have to supply facts based on the female skeletal structure, which I mentioned earlier, which I'm going to mention again right now. You have to show that the pictures of the person that you are labeling as a transgender, as the sex they are, either has or does not have an arch in the back, a pelvis that's tilted forward, hips below the crotch, all right, and a wide pubic arch. So the links of the pictures you have to supply to say that someone is a transgender has to include those. If it does not include those pictures, the links of pictures, and you just say someone is a transgender, we are going to block you. So you just can't come up with ridiculous facts like saying this person has an Adam's apple, because Adam's apple don't have anything to do with birth. You can't say long arms, you can't say long torsos, you can't say Adonis belts, you can say strong jaw lines, you can say a strong chin or a big head, whatever the case that you want to say. All those are ridiculous facts which have nothing to do with childbirth. And childbirth is what distinguishes a female from a man. So what helps a female give birth, like I'm saying, is an arch in the back, a pelvis that's tilted forward, hips below the crotch, and a wide pubic arch. If you do not provide pictures of the person showing that the person has or does not have, to label some person a transgender or not, we are going to block you. If you do not have those facts, do not even bring up the person's name in the comment section. You can send me an email. My email is the same as the channel name at gmail.com, and ask all your questions. But if you do not have those facts, just remember that we're going to block you. We don't have time for slandering. We want people to see clearly, so they can understand the concept of creation and know that God does exist and he really did create this world. That's what we're trying to show you. Okay, so now the next warning I have to put out is that, as usual, we are not against transgenders. If you're an adult, all right, and you've reached the age in which you can make a decision on your own and say you want to be a transgender, that's your business. All what we're doing here is exposing people who are lying to us about the agenda. All right, and as usual, the Vatican hasn't changed. They are the ones responsible for the organized transgendering of young children and taking young children at an early age and turning them into products which they can use to influence the world and construct a reality on people like Marion Jones, like we're going to prove to you today. All right, it's the Vatican. If you're trying to figure out who's running the world and you have no clue and they tell you it's the Jews, that's a lie. It's the Vatican who owns the Jews. It's the other way around. So please remember that. So let's get into the video. It might be a long video so as well. If you can't sit through a long video, then I apologize. It is what it is. We have to show people the truth. Now, before I get into Marion Jones, as you can see here, I'm using a Wikipedia page, and this Wikipedia page says hi reader in the US. It seems you use Wikipedia a lot. I think that's great and hope you find it useful. It's a little awkward to ask, but this one is that we need your help. We depend on donations averaging $15, but fewer than 1% of readers choose to give. If you donate just $3, you would help keep Wikipedia thriving for years. That's right, the price of your Wednesday coffee is all I ask. Please take a minute to keep Wikipedia growing. Thank you, Jimmy Wales, Wikipedia founder. Now, people might read through this. People actually think that maybe everything that you watch on the internet is independent, but they're all connected and they're all run by the Vatican. All right. So the idea of all this this little thing that we read here is to make people, to suck people into actually believing that when you pick up Wikipedia and you read the information that is free of disinformation, it's not organized, it's not controlled, and it's not owned by the Vatican. If you do find out, if you investigate and you find out that all things are owned by the Vatican like we have, then this is going to throw you off. This is disinformation at its best. This little red thing that you're reading here is meant to make you deceive you that it is not controlled information and is not owned by any person of interest. But by reading this, if you notice the fine details, you would notice that the Vatican Code of Numbers is in effect in this print. And for people who have heard or hearing for the first time that I'm talking about the Vatican Code of Numbers, there's a playlist on the channel that you can go and find. It's called the Vatican Code of Numbers. And when you play that particular video or playlist, it will clearly explain what I'm saying. But for those that are old already, you can see that the Vatican Code of Numbers here is at work because Wikipedia is controlled and organized information. As you can see here, it says that you should donate $3. It didn't say donate $2, $5, $6, $7, $8. It says $3. Why? It's a Vatican Code of Numbers. It says if we depend on donations averaging $15. Why is it saying $15? The Vatican Code of Numbers is still right at work. 1 plus 5 is equal to 6. If you divide 15 by 3, you get 5 times. The Vatican Code of Numbers is still at work. And then they say but fewer than 1%. So this is all controlled information. So even the owner of Wikipedia, his name is Jimmy, what's his name right here? His name is Jimmy Wales. This is the guy right here. This is a high degree Vatican Jesuit agent of this information. All right. So he's been made to make you believe that this is not controlled information that you're reading from. So when you study everything, you always have to remember in the back of your mind that the Albanic elite, all right, that's running the world. The Albanic elite supremacy running the world through the Vatican puts a lot of this information in everything. Why is that the case? Because Satan runs them. And Satan doesn't want you to know that God created this world and his imprint is all over everything. That's the reason why we do the myth of whiteness, to make you understand that. And some people might say, okay, might ask me the question, why do I say that anybody with straight hair is an albino? Because from the Bible tells us that God has woolly hair, and if God created man in his own image, which is the woolly hair, and described himself as black, then that means all creation of human beings are black. So if your hair is straight, it just means you're an albino of black people. But you're still black regardless. You're just an albino. You're not white. It's a social construct. And let me show you that so it doesn't just seem like I'm talking. So here is the Bible, and I'm reading from Daniel chapter number 7 in the Geneva Bible, and I'm reading from verse number 9. Remember, I said Daniel chapter number 7. Geneva Bible or the King James Bible, I'm reading from verse number 9. It says, "And I beheld till the thrones were set up, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool." That is the description of God who made this world. So that's why I'm saying that we tackle the myth of whiteness, because, like I've said earlier before, the two greatest evils that the albanic elite have put in place, which is misconstrued our reality and has brainwashed a lot of people, is the fact that, one, that they introduce race into humanity, and they introduce the globe, that the world is a globe. Those are the two greatest evils that has confused a lot of people. But we decide to tackle one more than the other, because if we tackle the myth of race and throw it out, then when you come to understand that the whole world, that we are all black people, and that white people or anybody with straight hair is an albino, it doesn't matter what color you are. As long as that hair is straight and not woolly, as the Bible says right here, you're an albino. That's just fact. You have to own up to it. Okay? It doesn't mean that you're any different. I'm just trying to show you who you are. All right? So that's all what it is. So we tackle the subject of the myth of whiteness, because once we take that out of the way, then you can understand that God created the world. Then you start seeing things for what it really is. You start investigating and researching into your own world. That's the most important thing you should do. All right? Get away from the TV. Start looking at your world. There is so much stuff. There is so much excitement at actually researching your world than spending your time watching a bunch of movies and listening to fake news and everything else. Research your world. That's what that's what the devil wants to keep you from. Researching your world to see the truth. So everything else is a distraction. So I say it a lot, so let's get back to Marion Jones, and we wanted to read from her Wikipedia page to see what Marion Jones was all about. Now, if we read here, let me try to scroll down a little bit more. It says, Marion Jones was born to African-American George Jones and his Brazilian wife, Marion, in Los Angeles, California. She holds dual citizenship with the United States and believes her parents split when she was very young. Jones' mother remarried, retired postal worker Agritolo 3 years later. So to become a stay-at-home to dad. Jones and her older half-brother Albert Kellen until Sunday in 1987. Jones turned to sports as an outlet for her grief, running pickup basketball games, anything else her brother Albert was doing athletically. By the age of 15, she was routinely dominating California High School Athletics Board on the track and basketball court. Now, what I want you guys to notice was, what I'm trying to read here was that, however, this is the part I pick up about Marion Jones. It says, however, just hours after Marion Jones won her first of the planned 5 goals, the IOC announced that Hunter had failed 4 pre-Olympic drug tests, testing positive each time for the banned anabolic steroid nanodrolone. Hunter was immediately suspended from taking any role at the Sydney Games, and he was ordered to surrender his on-field coaching credentials. So that's talking about C.J. Hunter, which happened to be the husband of Marion Jones. Now, what I was trying to show you was that that Marion Jones herself, let's see if I can find that. Hold on a second. I was trying to read something so you can see that that she is a Vatican agent as well. Just hold on, let me find that real quick. Okay, here's the part I wanted to read. It says, track and field. In high school, Jones was the CIF California State meet in the 100-meter sprint for 4 years in a row, presenting Rio Mesa the first 2 years and Thousand Oaks High School the last 2. She was successfully defended by the attorney Johnny Cochran on charges of doping during the high school track career. So, first of all, That means Jones, a lot of people had started, like normal regular people had started seeing that Jones as a female was outperforming other females. So they now decided to take a look and see if she was doping. All right. And Johnny Cochran during that time defended her, saying that she was not using any form of steroids. Now, why was this important? It's because this is how the Vatican throws people off from looking at facts. They don't want you to see that Marion Jones is a transgender. All right. So they bring up they're gonna start the rumors themselves and say that Marion Jones is using steroids. So in case you start noticing that this female is outdoing everybody else and nobody else can catch up, you will always be thinking towards the line that she is on steroids. Now, if you continue reading on here, it says she was selected the Gatorade Player of the Year for track and field 3 years in a row, once at Rio Mesa and twice at Thousand Oaks. Angela Bonham preceded her with the award at Rio Mesa. Kim Watson followed her with the award at Thousand Oaks. These schools joined Jesuit School Sacramento. Why is it important that they have to let you know that? Because Marion Jones is their invention. So they had to put that in there. All right. To make you understand that, for the people, not for the public, for the people who read this page, to understand that Marion Jones is one of the products of the Vatican. So they put the Jesuit High School in there. Now, if you read further on into this particular wiki page on Marion Jones, you see that what it says here. It says that the IOC and IF stripped Jones of all medals, points, and results received after September 1, 2000, after Jones admitting to using steroids prior to the summer 2000 Olympics. Why did this happen? Because it would indicate that at this point in time, people were starting to recognize the fact that transgenders were being used in sports and were taking medals that regular women should win for these transgenders. So in order to hide this so that the public is not aware of it, they bring in steroids. And then they make people like Marion Jones admit to using steroids, which will always be the case probably in the future when people are starting to get aware that there's transgenders and they want to investigate. Then you're going to hear a lot of steroid cases come up. They're going to use that as cover to say that the reason why Marion Jones looks the way she does is because she's using steroids, when it's far from the truth. It's because she was a transgender. Now, before I go any further, I just wanted you guys to notice something about Jimmy Wales, because since we're still reading the Wikipedia page, and I'm just trying to show you that Wikipedia is controlled information. So when you read stuff or you study stuff on Wikipedia, you have to study with your senses alert. Now, if you go on to scroll down to the web page to the part, it shows where Jimmy, or is it James Wells? Let me make sure his name is right. I'm calling Jimmy Wells, okay? Into Jimmy Wells' early life, on how he became to be the founder of Wikipedia. You will see here that he says that Wells was born in Huntsville, Alabama, shortly before being died on August 7, 1966. The Vatican Code of Numbers is at work. Probably because this dude wasn't born in 1966. But the Vatican leaves its prints on all its people so that the people who are in the mix, when they're reading, they can understand who they are. Does it make sense? So let's go on further. It says, however, his birth certificate lists his date of birth as the 8th. His father, Jimmy, worked as a grocery store manager, while his mother, Doris, a Nini Doodley, and his grandmother, Emma, ran the House of Learning, a small private school in the tradition of one-room schoolhouse where Wells and his 3 siblings received their early education. So Jimmy Wells had 3 siblings. A Vatican Code of Numbers is at work. Then he says, as a child, Wells was a keen reader with an acute intellectual curiosity when he was 3, signifying that this is a Vatican Jesuit agent. So I just wanted you guys to notice that before we get back to the subject of Marion Jones, and we're going to start looking at some pictures of Marion Jones to show you that she does not stand up to the test, and she is smell, before we get into fully the myth of whiteness part 12. So let's go. So here is a picture of Marion Jones, and what you guys notice, Marion Jones has a straight back. The widest point on these hips is above the crotch, not below it like a female should be, because Marion Jones is male. That's what I want you guys to take notice of. The back is all the way straight, and we'll show you a couple of more pictures. Here's another picture of Marion Jones. As you can see, straight back into the pelvis. There's no arch in the back. It's straight, and it's shaped like a P. Like I usually tell you guys how the back of a man is shaped, which is fact. You can see it's straight. There's no arch. Straight into the pelvis. Marion Jones was always and still remains male. Now, the whole reason for, that little, let's say, acceptance that she's using steroids was to throw people off, especially people who are digging, who have no idea about the clandestine nature of the Vatican, who runs and controls all the organizations of this world, that they could put men in front of you and say they're female without you noticing. So they picked up the steroid thing, and they throw a dog a bone, and you go looking for steroids. Oh, she looks that way because she's taking steroids. Does it make sense? Instead of looking at the facts, that you're looking at a man with a pretty face and some makeup, but the skeletal structure is that of a man. It's not a woman. All right, let's look at that fine document. Some of the organizations that are used to control your reality, because these organizations are supposed to be held up as a standard of truth. But you know that anything that the albinic elite touch, because they are controlled by the Vatican, which is controlled by the devil, is nothing but a lie. So let's show you that. So here is a Time magazine article telling you about the steroid case of Marion Jones, that she took steroids and she admitted to it. You can pause the video at any point in time and copy out the link right there and go read up on it. It says here, Time says the Time cover girl, winner of 5 medals, 3 golds at the 2000 Sydney Olympics, and now an admitted steroid user, as you can see right here, right? This is how all these people cover up for the Vatican. So even Time magazine, that you maybe have had trust in, covers up for the Vatican because it's owned by the Vatican. See right there. And this article was on Friday, October 5th, 2007. Let me pull up another article here, and this one is from the New York Times. A lot of people trust in the New York Times. They say, oh, they're outstanding. They tell you the truth. They tell you nothing but lies, covering up for the Vatican, as in all the media outlets that do cover up for the Vatican, which you get your news from. Like, remember, I've said the whole idea is to keep you distracted from researching your world and knowing the truth. And that's why we're on the subject of the myth of whiteness part 12 today, as usual, to let you know that the hands of God Almighty, the Creator, fingerprints are all over us. Because once you come to that understanding, then there's no need for you to even worry about the globe lies. All right. So here it says, the New York Times says, Jones admits to doping and enters guilty plea. You can pause the video at any point in time, copy out the link, and go read up on it. So let's get into one more news before we dive into the myth of whiteness. And in between, we'll be investigating Marion Jones as we go along. So let's go. This is some news that I just want you fellas to notice. It talks about cloning. And, the albinic elite have made, since they want to distract us so much from the idea or the fact that God created this world, they bring up such things as cloning. And like I've told people before, cloning in its real meaning means inbreeding. It's got nothing to do with the lie that you can probably see from this webpage, which I'm going to show you, in which how you can take DNA and create somebody or anybody else, or another version of you, or the same version of you. So we'll show you all that in a minute. You can pause the video at any point in time and copy out this link and go read up on it. It says Dolly the clone sheep was not old before her time. So this article is trying to tell you that when Dolly the sheep was put down before her 7th birthday in 2003, she said she was said to suffer from age-related osteoarthritis, raising red flags that clones may grow old faster. All right. So now, the idea of cloning that has been spread to us and people have come to believe, which is actually science fiction, is that DNA of any part of your body can be taken and you can be grown from that, and they can create somebody exactly like you at the same age, at the same day, to walk around the earth. And so many people believe this science fiction. But as you can read from here, it says, as I read here, it says that clones may grow old faster. That means may is not a possibility. This is actually a lie as well. But this is how the Vatican reveals itself, and people don't actually pay attention. They say clones may grow old faster. Growing old faster means that die quickly. All right? It's one of the problems of inbreeding. That means you get old. Let's say, for example, you're supposed to be 1 year old today, but you look like you're 10 years old. That's what it actually means. You die quickly. But all this is still a fallacy. It's to make people continually believe in the hoax of DNA and the hoax of cloning, the hoax of an afterlife that's still present in this world that's not connected to the reality of what God said it would be. All right? So this is all lies. And like I've always said, the actual meaning of the word cloning means inbreeding. That means family members. That means fathers and mothers, right? Brothers and sisters and siblings are inbreeding amongst themselves and are not going outside of the nuclear family. That's the actual meaning of cloning. It's got nothing to do, if you scroll through this page, as it says here that, let me just see if I can find that real quick. This page says that, let me see where that at. It says, okay, it says Dolly was created. This is how they tell the fake lie of cloning to a lot of people, and they actually believe it because you watch it on TV and CNN tells you and shows you some people in some lab coats doing something in the lab, and you actually believe it's cloning. They make some movies about it, and people actually believe that people can be cloned. The question nobody ever asks is this. If let's say you are, let's say 25 years old and you clone yourself, will that person be 25 years old on the day that it's born or happens to be inside this world? No. The person will be a 1-day-old baby and will grow at the normal rate that all human beings grow. So if you clone yourself when you're 25 years old, the baby is going to be 1 day old. By the time you get to 26 years old, the baby is going to be what? 1 year old, no longer 1 day. It's going to grow at the normal rate. By the time you get to 27, the baby will be 2 years old. All right. So here, this is how they spread all these wonderful lies which people have fallen into, and this is why we put so much attention and time into the myth of whiteness for you to understand. Because once you see clearly, then you won't be believing all this nonsense. You will know that God created us all. There is no such thing as white people. It's all one black human race. And whites or anybody with straight hair, doesn't matter what color you are, is an albino of a black person, caused by years of inbreeding in which their black ancestors did. All right, or passed on by, how white supremacists do by, going around the world and inbreeding other people to resemble them. Okay, so that's just what it is. So here is what it says about how Dolly was created, which people really will fall for this when they read. The brainwashed people will fall for this. They say Dolly was created using somatic cell nuclear transfer. It involves removing the DNA containing nucleus from a cell other than an egg and a sperm. So what? See how these guys tell you lies? They actually make you believe that life can be formed from anything besides the egg or a sperm, which was the way God created it to be. They actually tell you this, and people will buy it. Okay? It says a skin cell, for example, and injecting it into an unfertilized egg from which the nucleus had been removed. That means they're trying to tell you that they can be like God. They can create life from anything besides the normal order which God had set it up. It goes on to say, once transferred, the egg reprograms the mature DNA back to an embryonic state with the aid of an electric jolt. The egg starts dividing to form an embryo of an animal almost identical to the original DNA donor. Animal cloning is used in agriculture mainly to create a breeding stock and the business of recreating people's dead pets. This is all lies. It can't be done. The only way all right, that any of these things can be created is through an egg and a sperm. You can create DNA or people or stuff from skin cells. It's nonsense. It's science fiction. All right, so let's move on further and to start talking about the myth of whiteness and the part in which the white supremacist Vatican does a lot of good science, because this is fake science. And then they also, when they do good science, they also impute, all right, disinformation, because the disinformation is to throw people off track who are looking for the truth, to throw people off track to understanding that we are all one black human race and that white people are just albinos. Anybody with straight hair is an albino. That's just fact. Because once you come to that understanding, all right, then you start seeing the fingerprint of God on creation and you will know your creator. But the devil doesn't want you to know. So that's why he uses this white albinic elite and the religion of science to brainwash you. So let's go and look up this stuff and see what we're talking about. So the whole topic of what we're going to talk about is based on a stereotype, which is actually true, but it's been made to sound like a myth. All right. Now, white supremacy or albinic supremacy makes us believe that everything in this world came from an albinic person, and that black people are the inferior people in the world and they are the superior. But all through the years, they've carried out numerous tests, and this is what we're going to show you on today's video, numerous tests to show you the genetic superiority of black folk. Now, this one is based on an article on Life Science, and Life Science is owned by the Vatican as well, because you're going to see the disinformation that they're going to plant in here while telling you the truth. It says here, scientists theorize why black athletes run faster. Now, it's known commonly around the world that black people, especially in sports, are bigger, stronger, and faster. And why is that? Because they have the melanin content. They don't have any genetic abnormalities caused by inbreeding, which has led to the albinic population of the world, or anybody with straight hair that we find today. Okay, so it is normally, people always use that term. You probably heard it in circles. They say the BB genetics, all right? In bodybuilding, it's a standard in which people, they say, like, black people with black people tend to be build more muscle mass, they're stronger, they're faster. We're going to look at the real science behind it today. Now, usually there is a reason for everything, because when the elite is lying to you, they tell you truth in plain sight and you can't understand why. So for example, in bodybuilding, if you've ever been to a bodybuilding show, you would notice that the contestants, when they come out, whether male or female, always look deeply tanned and almost black. You will see like a white person coming up on the stage and you will see that this person is deeply tanned. Why is that the case? Because all through the years, the white albinic elite have studied and come to understand that black people in general, all right, I'm not saying every black person right here, I'm saying black people in general tend to have more muscle mass than their other counterparts. They're built stronger, all right, they work faster, and there's a science behind it because of the melanin. They've done all the science, but they keep hiding it from you. So first of all, I'm going to play a short clip of a video for you to see that when bodybuilders get on stage, they tan themselves. Why do they tan themselves? Is because based on the science that the elite, all right, have shown to work, is that the darker you are, all right, that means the better you are. The blacker you are, that means you have more melanin, you have more muscle mass, you're stronger, you're fitter than anybody else. You have better skin. The darker the skin it is. So let me just play that short clip And then you can see when a bodybuilder, like this is a bodybuilder right here, and notice when he's about to get on stage, they're tanning, putting out that black coat over him. Why is this the case? Because this is based on real science. So what they're trying to do here is to use that real science to fake that real science, because the blacker the skin is, the more the muscle shows, which is based on real science. So these are all bodybuilders here, and you can see they're getting a tan on to make themselves skin look darker. But in the real world today, they downgrade blacks to second-class citizens. But this is some of the truth that they show you in plain sight, but because you're too blind. Because, for example, if someone like me, right, I hardly watch TV. And when I watch TV, I'm watching it with maybe like friends and family. And when I'm watching TV, I'm not just watching TV. I'm watching for the truth and decoding the truth that they're showing you in plain sight, instead of just watching it for entertainment reasons. Because for a lot of people, they wouldn't watch these movies or watch this. But if you, for example, you're watching the screen right now and you see that bodybuilders are getting a tan, and you don't understand the reason why. Why do they have to get a tan? Can't they just get up on the stage with their normal skin? Why do they have to get a tan? Because it's based on real science that the more melanin you are, the blacker you are, the better your skin is, the better the muscle mass, the better the density. And that's what we have to show you on today's video. So let's go. Let's start. So this article is from Life Science. So you can pause the video at any point in time and copy out the link and go read up on it, okay? It says scientists theorize why black athletes run fastest, okay? It says here on this article that 28 of the last 38 world record holders in the men's 100-meter dash have been black athletes, and researchers at 2 universities think they know why. That statement is utterly false, because what they're trying to, because you have to understand, when you read that the elite in the Vatican are still trying to split the concept of race. All right, when they say the 28 of the last 38 world record holders in the 100-meter dash have been black athletes, it's still putting the concept of race in your mind, even when they're telling you the truth. Does it make sense? So you can identify yourself as black, as white, or Asian. Does it make sense? The concept of race. So when you read and study, you have to study knowing that there's a lot of disinformation, because the devil is at work. Just like he told Eve in the Garden of Eden, if God said, did God say you shall eat and die? When you eat, you shall be like gods. Remember that. So it goes on to say, a new study by researchers at Harvard University, a historical black school in Washington, D.C., and Duke University in North Carolina, suggests why black athletes may outperform athletes of other races in running events. So you have to notice the concept of the lie again. They're telling you that it was a Howard University, a historically black school in Washington, D.C. So that means if you classify yourself as white or as an albino when you're reading this article, you're going to be thinking this is biased, because it's just black writing about themselves. So that's the ideology. I want you to notice the tricks of the trade so you can study and know what the message is trying to be conveyed to you. Okay? It says, let's keep on reading all the same, because this is from Life Science. It says, and Duke University, North Carolina suggests why black athletes may outperform athletes of other races in running events. Physical attributes in the length of the limbs and the structure of the body mean the center of gravity tends to be higher in the bodies of black people, the researchers say. So what are they saying? In real science, the reason why black people outperform other people, or other people as the so-called construct of race says, is because of their BB genetics, as they would say, is because the limbs of black people are different from the limbs of other people around you. This is fact, and this is science. I did not say this. You're reading it right here. Okay? It says physical differences, all right? Physical differences in the length of the limbs and the structure of the body mean the center of gravity tends to be higher in the bodies of black people. I'm going to try to read through all the document, but you can pause the video at any point in time and copy out this link and go read up on yourself. It says, since 1968, the world record holders in the men's 100-meter dash have been black athletes, and since 1912, when the International Association of Athletics Federation started keeping track of the world record holders in that event, only 10 non-black athletes out of 38 individuals have held the title. They're still putting the concept of race here, non-black, when it should be the right word. That's why I'm saying you should create your own vocabulary. It should be albinos. All right? 10 albinos. And it would make much more sense. Okay, so let's go keep reading. It says, there's a whole body of evidence showing that there are distinct differences in body types among blacks and whites. Blacks and albinos, which should be the right word. Said research Edward Jones, who researches adolescent obesity, nutrition, and body composition at Howard University. These are real patterns being described here. Whether the fastest sprinters are from Jamaican, African, or Canadian, most of them can be traced back generally to West Africa. See, the white elite can't stop telling you lies without, they can't tell you truth without telling you lies. The whole idea here of this particular statement is to make you understand that if you're black in the Americas, that means you came from Western Africa, which is not the case, which is utterly false. So you can see that even in telling you the truth, they still have to construct the lie, because there was no reason for them to say that in here. But they're just trying to give you, the reader, the idea, especially that if you're maybe an albino, that black people are slaves and they came from West Africa, when it's not the case. Blacks have been, all right, the aboriginal people of all lands in this world till today. And the so-called people who call themselves whites or anybody with straight hair are actually descendants of their black ancestors who were inbreeding. That's just fact. You need to watch the Myth of Whiteness from part 1 to part 12 to understand that. So it says why center of gravity matters. It says, although there are, now we don't want to read all the lies, because I just want to get you to the right message. It says blacks tend to have longer limbs with smaller circumferences, meaning that their centers of gravity are higher compared to whites of the same height, said Adrian Bijan Jones, co-author and engineering professor at Duke University. Asians and whites, the Caucasians, or the so-called Caucasians we have today, know that their origins are from Asia, all right? So they always put themselves together. They know where they're from, but they brainwash other people, especially black folk, not to understand who they really are. So that's why they put this together and say Asians and whites, all right? Because it's one and the same. It says, Asians and whites tend to have longer torsos, so their centers of gravity are lower. So the difference between black folk, that means people with woolly hair, and people with straight hair, is that the centers of gravities of people with woolly hair are higher up in their bodies. The center of gravities of people with straight hair, which are albinos, are lower in their bodies. So the higher the center of gravity, all right, it makes you to be able to run faster, as this article is going to explain to you as we read on. It says, these differences are small and we don't really see them when we look at someone. Bejan told Life's Little Mysteries, we are only rarely struck by how long someone's legs are. But these small differences certainly matter in races lasting less than 10 seconds, Bejan said. The height of a person's center of gravity affects how fast his feet are moving when they hit the ground. Bejan said, each step a runner takes is like falling, except the athlete breaks the fall with his foot. So the feet of a person with a higher center of gravity will hit the ground faster than someone with a lower center of gravity. So that is the reason why black athletes or black people generally prosper more in athletics, is because they have a higher center of gravity, just like this article explains. That, walking or running is like falling, all right? So if you have a higher center of gravity, your legs will tend to touch the ground quickly than someone with a lower center of gravity. That's what it's saying. So it goes on to say here, torsos and legs. In the study, the scientists gathered data available from the militaries of 17 nations. Militaries measured their records from uniform sittings and a reliable source of data. Bejan said, to approximate torso length, the scientists prepared the average height of the military man with the sitting height, the distance from a chair to the top of their head. Results showed that average sitting height of blacks was about 1.5 inches shorter than that of whites, who with the same height. This means that among blacks and whites of the same height, the legs of the blacks were longer. All right? Think of a high-waisted person, while the torsos of whites were longer. So with black and albino people, the blacks with woolly hair, it's saying here that their legs were longer, while the torsos of the albinos, or the so-called whites, or anybody with straight hair, were longer. So whites had longer torsos. Longer torsos just means from your chest down, let's say, to your waist. All right, from your chest down to your waist was much more longer if you're a white, or anybody that's an albino, or anybody with straight hair. And the black person had a shorter torso and had longer limbs. Let's keep on reading. It says, this physical difference gives a black athlete an advantage even against an athlete of another race who is taller, has a higher center of gravity, says Bajan. From a physics perspective, Bajan said the legs do the working of running and the torso of the body is just extra weight that the legs must carry. So the race goes to the runners with longer legs and shorter torsos, which blacks do. So that's why they excel in athletics. All right? So this is science that, the white albino elite doesn't want you to know, because it's still hiding behind the fact that they have the they are the superior breed, and black folk, or people with woolly hair, have come to accept that. They've been brainwashed. So let's keep reading. By contrast, it says whites tend to have the advantage in swimming, where a longer torso allows for faster speeds. So when you see people like Michael Phelps, I want you to go take a look. You will notice that Michael Phelps, who's won the highest number of records in world swimming, has a very long torso and his limbs are very short. So in comparison with a black person, the black person will have a shorter torso and very long limbs, which is the case amongst all black people with woolly hair. All right? So it says the study was published online this week in the International Journal of Design and Nature of Economics. So you can pause the video at any point in time and copy out the link and go read up on it. Because the reason why I'm trying to show you all this is so that you come to understand, all right, that the myth of whiteness is actually a lie. It's a fabrication. Because if we all came from a white person, all right, or whatsoever, they should have the superior genetics. But as it's been proven case and time again, is the black folk who have the superior genetics, or the BB genetics as they say. That's showing us that only the inferior comes from the superior. The superior doesn't come from the inferior, going by the theory of evolution, if it's so much true. That is what we're trying to show you, so you can understand that we are all black people, all right? And that whites, or anybody with straight hair, is just an albino of a black person, and that God created us all. So let's move on, because there's something else I want to show you on the body differences between black and whites, which is real science, which the Vatican controls, studies, and they know this, but they won't tell the population. And if you don't study and you're busy just watching TV and believing and going around on your Black Friday deals and buying everything and shopping and spending money instead of researching your world, which you will get much more adventure and thrills from than all the distractions that serve you so you don't. So let's move on further and read some further articles and then move on with the transvestigation of Marion Jones. So we were in the subject of the transvestigation of Marion Jones. We already took a look at this picture. So next picture, as you can see, Marion Jones, he has a straight back straight into the pelvis. There is no arch in the back. And as you can see, the straightness of the back is right where the belly button of a man usually starts, or where the waist of a man starts, which is always below the belly button. As you can see here, it's straight into the pelvis. And this was the cover of Maxim magazine. And a lot of people have been deceived by this. They're probably going to take a look at this picture and say, oh, Marion Jones looks so good, she's so beautiful as a dude, not knowing that you're admiring another man. And then homosexuality increases in the population, because Marion Jones here is a dude, as you can see, straight back into the pelvis. There's no arch in the back. Straight back into the pelvis. There's no arch in the back. No arch. And the belly button, the waist, the indentation, where it starts, the indentation is the indentation of where a male waist starts, because Marion Jones here is 100% male. and not a woman, and therefore is a transgender. Another picture. Marion Jones right here again. As you can see, the back is straight way into the pelvis, and the widest point sticking out is above the crotch, not below it like a female, because this is where the female Q angle should start. If you're female, it's higher up here, because Marion Jones is 100% male. All right, not a woman. Okay, another picture. Here's Marion Jones with the husband C.J. Hunter. This means this is another homosexual hiding. All right, it is what it is. But they tell you there's a two heterosexual couples kissing when it's not. They've been telling you lies for so long. Another picture, and that's the same picture again. Then lying. Those are two males. All right. Marion Jones running again. As you can see, the widest point on this crotch where the Q angle starts is above the crotch. See that? Above. The Q angle starts above it, not below it like it should be for a female, because Marion Jones has been hiding all the way with a straight back into the pelvis that she's female when she's male. The reason for all this cover, because if you look at any pictures of Marion Jones, you'll never find her wearing all that, like, small skimpy outfits that usually female athletes wear on track and field. You don't see that. She's always in like wearing something like, let's say, some sort of tight pants that covers up everything, because they knew that this was a transgendered woman who's been beating up all the females and taking up all the accolades and beating real females out of competition. All right, so let's jump back on what we were trying to show you. Another thing that shows you that the black people with woolly hair have the superior genetics, showing you that, the so-called myth that's being spread around that they are inferior doesn't stand up to the test and is a lie based on what even the white or albanic elite, all right, do behind closed doors studying real science. So let's go. So this one is based on still the so-called BB genetics that's being passed around, which a lot of people don't know. You can pause the video at any point in time and copy out that link. Now, this is called, this is the reason why blacks generally have more muscle mass than other people. The muscles, look, they have this fine belly muscles, very solid, very dense, and other stuff, and another thing, sorry to say. And also, this is going to explain why the muscle, the bone density of blacks are thicker than anybody else. They have more muscle density and muscle mass. So this is part of that explanation to understand that the BB genetics that's being bandied around is actually true. So you can pause the video, like I said, at any point in time and copy out that link. And this is called myostatin-related muscle hypertrophy. All right. It says myostatin-related muscle hypertrophy is a rare condition. It's not rare. All right. Majority of blacks have it. All right. This is what, this guy's trying to pull to you, and, trying to tell you lies here and there so you guys don't understand what's going on. They start off with disinformation, then they tell you truth. It says myostatin-related muscle hypertrophy is a rare condition characterized by reduced body fat and increased muscle mass. So what it's saying here, which is something you notice in most black people, they have reduced body fat and a higher percentage of muscle related to other people who are albinos or anybody with straight hair. It goes on to say affected individuals have up to twice the usual amount of muscle mass in their bodies. They also tend to have increased muscle strength. This condition is not known to cause any medical problems, and affected individuals are intellectually normal. All right. So this is one of the reasons why black athletes and black people in general have more muscle mass. They're bigger, they're stronger, they are faster than their counterpart. It's because of this myostatin-related muscle hypertrophy, the ability to have increased muscle strength and muscle mass in their bodies compared to the fat content. Now, one of the things that is responsible for myostatin is, it says here, let me see if I can read up. It says, is a gene. They call the gene the MSTN gene. So it says myostatin-related muscle atrophy is a very rare condition. It's not rare, like I said before. This is disinformation. Okay. Let me read it right. It says myostatin-related muscle hypertrophy is caused by mutations in the MSTN gene. It's no mutation at all. It's the normal gene in regular black folk. Okay? MSTN gene. So I want you to remember that. So let me read some more information for you on what this myostatin actually is. So here's the article I want you guys to read. You can pause the video. He's going to explain what the myostatin and what these guys in the albanic community do studying black folk and hiding all the signs without letting it public and hiding it under so many big words and ambiguous words so that people will not come to the obvious truth of who has the superior genetics, and they keep on believing these lies. Because I mean, it's common sense. People should think about it. If I have the superior genetics, that automatically should mean that I am superior to you. But it's not banded around that way. Rather, it's said they don't have superior genetics. It's just rare and all those kind of lies to hide the fact so that they can keep the myth of whiteness going on in society and brainwashing people to believe that the lighter your skin and the straighter your hair, that you are the superior being. And that's what it is. So pause the video at any point in time and copy out the link right there and go read up on it. Now it says myostatin. Now remember, myostatin, like I explained before, as I said, is related to muscle hypertrophy. It's not a rare condition, as they say. It's characterized by reduced body fat. That means which black people usually have, most have, is they have reduced body fat and have more increased muscle mass than the others. And like we've stated before, we've shown you that all black people have longer limbs and shorter torso, majority. Okay, now myostatin here, this article was on carrying out investigations on the myostatin. That means the case in which you have reduced body fat and increased muscle hypertrophy. It says muscle hypertrophy just means you're able to increase muscle mass and density. Just know that. Okay, it says myostatin and follistatin polymorphisms interact with muscle phenotypes and ethnicity. So they tell you the truth first here, right? Ethnicity, because there is no such thing as race. They say myostatin and follistatin polymorphisms interact with muscle phenotypes and ethnicity. They didn't say race because they know there is no such thing as race. Now, the abstract goes on to say, we examine associations among myostatin, MST, and remember I read earlier that said that the reason for the myostatin is that these people have the myostatin gene, okay? They say it's a mutation, which is absolutely false. All black people have it, especially if they're if they're healthy, all right, if they haven't messed it up through food or whatever they're eating, maybe some sort of abnormality. Now it says, and follistatin, FST, all right. Don't worry about the ambiguous words, because this is all white supremacy trying to hide the truth by using ambiguous words and lies. It says single nucleotide polymorphisms on the muscle strength and the strength response to resistance training. It says the subjects that were used were aged 24 and above. They disclosed themselves as Caucasian. Now they read the race thing into it again to keep on confusing people. African American, which is there's no such thing, and Asian, Hispanic, or other, all the major races which don't actually exist. Now, it goes on to say they were genotyped for MSTN, which is the gene that they say that causes the muscle hypertrophy, reduced fat and increased muscle. And they say we assess dynamic 1 repetition maximum. That means the repetition of exercises. Let's say, for example, you're picking up a weight. You have to carry the weight for a simple number of repetitions to build muscle. It says an isometric maximum voluntary contraction. That means how much the muscle was contracting, muscle strength and size, cross-sectional area of the elbow flexors before and after 12 weeks of unilateral upper arm repetitions. Repeated measures. They put a lot of this, ambiguous words to confuse you, but I'm going to make you understand it very simply. Tested associations among genetic variants and muscle phenotypes with age and BMI as covariates. BMI means body muscle index, all right? Okay, so let's read on. So it goes on to say baseline MVC. MVC means here maximum voluntary contraction, all right? Was greater among African Americans it should not be African Americans, it should be blacks, all right? Or let's say in the right words, whatever, blacks, all right? Baseline MST was greater among African Americans who were carriers of the MSTN gene allele. That means the microstatin, MSTN means here the micro, what would I read again? Among the myostatin, all right? Myostatin is MSTN. Said that the baseline MVC, that means the maximum volume contraction, was greater among blacks who were carriers of the MSTN gene allele, right? Greater than, as you read on down here, than any other muscle or than any other group of people that were around who were not black with woolly hair. That's just what it means, very simply. Okay, it says a conclusion, MSTN, that means the myostatin, means increased hypertrophy and less fat, or increased muscle mass and less fat, were associated with baseline muscle strength and size among African Americans only, meaning black people only had this increased muscle mass from working out. That's just what it's trying to say. This ethnic specific, now we're using the right words, and it says these ethnic specific associations are hypothesis generating and should be confirmed in a larger sample of African Americans. Now they throw in the lie because they don't want people to know that this is fact, that the BB genetics are actually very real. So let me read up some other stuff that will show you. So whenever I say that that the skeleton of a black person is denser than any other person who was not black, black meaning here that you have woolly hair, all right, that is denser than any other person, and this just makes these people to be genetically superior. So the question is, okay, if God, right, made us all, okay, and God wanted to choose who he would be likened to, would he be likened more to an inferior people genetically, or would he be likened more to people who are superior genetically? It's a question you need to answer. I'm not going to answer that for you. So let's read on, because there are some other fine things that I want you to notice in this article. So let's go. So you can pause the link, pause the video, sorry to say, at any point in time and copy out this link and go read up on it. Now, it starts here by saying that biological differences exist in the body composition of blacks and whites. We reviewed literature on the differences and similarities between the two races. Two races. Why did they say two races? Because like I've said before, I want you to understand when the white Albanic elite are lying to you, they understand that white people or anybody with straight hair are albinos of black. So they said two races. Okay? So I want you to remember that when you're reading, read with your mind open to understand what you're looking at. Don't just read through. It all means something. It says, okay, we revealed literature on the differences and similarities between the two races relative to fat-free body mass, water, mineral, and protein, fat patterning, and body dimensions and proportions. In general, blacks have a greater bone mineral density and body protein content than do albinos. There's a reason why they only mention two races, because they know the truth that everybody's black and that the whites are just albinos. They didn't say all the so-called five races that we should be meant to believe, Caucasian, Asian, or, Hispanic, as the case may be. There is only one race. That's why they had to give you a difference here. There's only one. It's a black human race. And anybody that's white or straight-haired is just an albino of a black person. They're telling you the truth right here in plain sight, but people will never get it because they are brainwashed. All right, it goes on to say blacks have a greater bone mineral density and body protein content than do whites, resulting in a greater fat-free body density. Additionally, there are racial differences in the distribution of subcutaneous fat and the length of the limbs relative to the trunk. We already showed you that black people have generally longer limbs and shorter torsos because of, their melanin content, and albinos have longer torsos and shorter limbs. Go look around. Just do this on your own. So it wouldn't be like Tricks of the Estrade just saying stuff. Go look at the facts for your own. You have black folk around you with woolly hair. Compare and see if it's true or not. So I keep on reading. Goes on to say that the possibility that these differences are a result of ethnicity. They're telling you the truth now. The possibility that these differences are a result of ethnicity rather than of race is also examined. Now they throw in the lie. Okay? Because most equations that predict relative body fat were derived from predominantly white samples, biological variation between the races in these body composition indexes has practical significance. Systematic error can result in the... I'm going to stop there because I don't want to read any more lies. So what it's trying to say here is that what you should get from this is this. When obesity, if you are black and you say you're obese, you can't use the measurement that is used for albinic people to say that it applies to you. That's just what you have to understand from what I just read, because they're talking about the subcutaneous, that black have more fat-free body index than whites. Okay, so let's keep reading just to show you some other things that you should take notice of in here. So this article goes on to say, just like I told you about, but you can use the obesity content which is usually gotten from, measured using albanic people or white people, as the case may be, and you measure with the black person, is not going to be one and the same. That's why most drugs that work for white folk don't work for black folk, because of this fat content that each person carries, which is different. So that's why a lot of black people are getting hooked on drugs and they're dying, because the drugs were not designed based on the fat body content that you have, which is different from an albino. So as you can see, he says here, when public health policies are being established or research is being conducted on the prevalence of obesity or obesity-related diseases, an inaccurate assessment of body fat can affect research findings and have far-reaching implications. This is especially important for the black population. I want you guys to see that. So it's not just like Tricks of the Estrade is talking. All right? Can you see that? It says when public health policies, that means all the public health policies, meaning all the drugs that you're taking and all the medications that you're taking, are being established or research is being conducted on the prevalence of obesity or obesity-related diseases. An inaccurate assessment of body fat can affect research findings and have far-reaching implications. This is especially important for the black population. All right? Okay, so let's keep reading further. Some other things I want you to notice for this particular document. Like I said, you can pause the video at any point in time, copy out the link, and go read up on it. So here is one of the things that it's explaining how the obesity in blacks is different from albinos. It says here, a current popular theory that may partially explain the high prevalence of obesity in blacks is the apparent difference in resting energy expenditure between blacks and whites, where at L9 recently found a significantly lower sleeping metabolic rate in blacks than in whites after adjustment for sex, age, and body composition. So what is it saying? It's saying that when black people sleep, their metabolic rate is lower than when a white person sleeps. So that means a black person's metabolism is not working as quickly or as faster as it should do when a white person sleeps. So that's one of the part of reasons why, if you look at a black person who's age 20 and a white person age 20, they both look, the white person most likely, or the albino, wants to look older than the black. Why? Because when you sleep as a black person, your metabolism works slower. It doesn't burn that much energy. While with the white or anybody who's albino, the metabolism is working quickly. All right? That means it's burning more energy, and that causing the aging process to really show. So that's the best way to explain it. So some other things I would love to read from this. Let me just scroll down a little bit more just to show you some other stuff. So the next thing, because I've always talked about the fact that black people, have more like bone density than their albino counterparts. And I've never actually shown you the science behind it for you guys to actually see. So I'm going to read it from here. It says from this particular article again that the mean female weight and skeletal weight of the black men and women were greater than those of the white men and women respectively. The circumference and amount of compact bone of the shaft of the femur were also greater in blacks than in whites. Additionally, the authors noted that blacks have proportionally longer forearms and legs than do whites. What does that mean? Superior, or what they call the BB genetics. All right? So the reason why I'm showing you all this, because I want you to understand this, that the lie that's bandied around and in which white people are brainwashed, or albinos are brainwashed around the world, to actually think that blacks are slaves and that blacks are the inferior people of them, is a lie from the devil himself, because he does not want you to understand that you guys are all blacks and that you are just albinos of this people. So he rather just make you believe in the so-called life of the Neanderthal, all right, or any other thing, because he's trying to hide God from you. The white albinic elite worship the devil, and they want the whole world to be sucked into this worship and forget about the creator. So you have to punish and downgrade the people who look like the creator, the image of the creator. That is what's going on here. So I showed you this to show you the superior genetics in which black people have, so you can come to understand and come to the terms of the fact of the lies that you're being told, that it is not true. So you can, like I said, at any point in time, you can pause the video and copy out this link and go read up on it and see that it is true and is factual that black people, or people with woolly hair as I call it, because that's the image of God, are really deep there, that they are the superior genetics. All right? And they are not the people you think of them to be. And most people have been sucked into this, especially a lot of black people around the world, into thinking that they are inferior when they are genetically superior. Because the brainwashing of the white albinic elite is to make sure that the image of God is lost and people do not come to that reality. So that's the reason why, for the concept of race, once you take that out of the way, you can see God clearly. You can see the imprint of the Creator on all of us. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys on the myth of whiteness. And I think I've come to the end of it. You can pause the video, like I said, copy out the link and go read up, and you see so many of the genetic superiority that blacks have, and the reason why they're athletically, biologically superior to the albino counterpart. Being albino does not make you any less of a human being, because we have no say over how we came into this world. We did not ask to be here. We just found ourselves here. All right? So there is no way you can blame yourself for the color of skin that you find yourself. The only reason why you're here is to find out who you are and why your creator made this world and why he brought you in here. That should be the object of your goal. Okay? So let's move on with the transvestigation of Marion Jones so we can wrap up this video. One more thing before I go on to Marion Jones. I just have to show you this because it's still part of the article. It says new technology has enabled the assessment of bone mineral in vivo using neutron activation analysis. Cohen and al. Measured the total body calcium, phosphorus, sodium, chlorine, and potassium contents of blacks. After the data were normalized for body size and age, blacks had significantly higher mean calcium and potassium values than those reported previously for whites. I just wanted you to notice that even with the mineral content, that blacks carry more of that than their albino counterparts, showing you that the theory of evolution, if it's to be true as it was reported by Darwin, would mean that blacks are genetically superior and albinos are genetically inferior. That means the weaker came from the stronger and not the other way around. Okay, so I think I've finally read what I wanted to read out of the way. There's a whole lot of stuff that you can read on this particular web page to actually show you what these people are hiding from you in plain sight into knowing the reality of who you are. But for now, let's move on to the transvestigation, or finish the transvestigation rather, of Marion Jones, and we can wrap up this video. All right, let's go. We already showed you this picture of Marion Jones that has a straight back, all right, and the hips, the widest point is above the crotch, and the Q angle starts there, clearly showing you that this thing is an female, as it's been banded around to us. This is actually a man in very tight pants. Let's move on. Here's another picture from Marion Jones, and this is what I'm telling you, that the Vatican, they take young children. I mean, just seeing this just makes me feel some type of way, because where did they get these children from? These children are like products. They're not really children. This is what the Vatican does. They create a transgender like this, and they make him feel that it's actually a female, and they give him fake children. Like, I don't know where they took these children from, but these children are gone. They're also products of the Vatican. All right. Like I've said before, pedophilia is very, very important for the Vatican, because without pedophilia, they can't pass on the traditions, all right, that they need to use to control this world, because none of us lives up to 200 years above to affect this world for that long. So they need to create, that's why they need pedophilia, to keep on passing the traditions on to the people who will do what they couldn't do before they died. All right, some other pictures of Marion Jones. As you can see right here, where is the hands of Marion Jones resting? Because that is the male hip. All right, as a man, your arms comes comfortably to rest on your body below your navel, because that's where your hip is at. If you're female, it's gonna be above the navel. That's where you place your hands, because your waist is above it. The man's waist is below the navel, and that's where Marion Jones' arms comes to rest. As you can see, she still has a straight back. 100% man and not a woman. Been lying to us. Let's go. Another picture. Marion Jones again. Straight back into the pelvis. There is no arch in the back, because this is not the back of a female. This is the back of a man on makeup, trying to fool you that it's female. Marion Jones, 100% male. That lie of taking steroids was just to throw people off the fact that they started looking at her and seeing that this is a dude. And this will be the case that will come up in so many millions of years. Let's say, did I say millions of years? Maybe a couple of years down the line, when people start waking up to the fact that in sports that you have males acting like females, they're going to throw in steroids. So probably in the near future, you probably see Sir Williams come out and say, I've been taking steroids, to throw you off the fact that you're looking at a man. So I want you guys to notice that lie, because it started with Marion Jones. Another picture. And here's Marion Jones with CJ Hunter. And if you've been thinking and looking about and looking for, you look at the size difference of the skulls. I don't want to go into that. They're of the same height. The skulls are the same, the skull size. It's just that this one is a little bit fatter, because these are two men. All right. This one has a little bit more fat on it because it's bigger. It's a bigger man. So the fat content makes it look like the skull is much more larger when it's not. They are of the same height. Two men. Look at, there's no difference in the skull sizes. All right. Another picture, Marion Jones, straight back again, 100% man, no woman right here. Marion Jones is male. That's why it was beating up all the females in all the athletic competitions it was doing. Not just because of its premier BB genetics, but because it's a dude. Okay, let's go on further. Look at Marion Jones again, straight back all the way into the pelvis. Widest point on the crotch from where the Q angle starts is above the crotch, not below it like a female. And it's always in this kind of shorts, trying to cover up the male hips. That's why I was wearing this all along. Don't worry about the pretty face and smile. It's 100% man. All right, Marion Jones again, straight back into the pelvis. Let me see if I can blow this up as much as I can. Straight into the pelvis, 100% man, no woman. All right, 100% transgender. Let's go. Another picture, straight back into the pelvis. There is no arch. How does this thing give birth to those two children that we see? Where did they come from? Where did they make these babies from? I probably pity those poor children. 100% man, not a woman. All right, another picture. Look at that, straight back. Remember, look at the male rib cage. When a female raises her hands up, you were supposed to see that hourglass figure. All right, It doesn't matter if she has small hips, very tiny hips, you will still see that hourglass figure from where the deep C arch in the back starts. But as you can see, this back is straight all the way down into the pelvis. There is no arch. See that? Straight. There is no arch because this is a man, 100% man, not a woman. Marion Jones again, straight back. And look at the muscles on this thing. Look at the muscular nature of this thing. Built like a dude because it is one. Been masquerading around for a female way too long. Tried to hide under the fact that it was taking steroids so people wouldn't notice that you've been looking at a dude all along who's been winning all the medals and pretending to be female. 100% man, not a woman. As you can see, the Q angle starts above the crotch, not below it. Above, above, above. The widest point in the hips, above. Because this is 100% man, not a woman. All right. Look at that again. Man, straight back, straight into the pelvis. There is no arch in the back. A P-shaped back, the back of a man, because it is a man, not a woman. Don't let the smile fool you, the earrings and the makeup on the face. This is a man. It's been a man, been fooling us along. Now, for some people, I don't know if you guys enjoyed your childhood as much as I did. I really did love my childhood. I loved being a child. So for me to understand that a lot of the people that I was looking up to or looking towards to have actually been liars, it's heartbreaking. It should be heartbreaking for anybody to know that these people have been telling you lies. As a child, you are carefree. You believe what everybody tells you, just to understand that your whole childhood was all a lie. All right, let's keep going. Marion Jones again. Look at that. Straight back into the pelvis. Widest point of the hips above the crotch. From where the Q angle starts. Above the crotch. Not below like a female. Because this is a dude. Once a dude, always one. Alright. Look at that. Resting point on the feet, on the male waist. Sorry to say. Below the navel. Straight back into the pelvis. Because this is 100% man. And just look at those muscles. Look at those muscles. Those are not the muscles of a well-developed female athlete. These are the muscles of a dude. Been lying to us and masquerading for too long that it is female when it's not. This is a man all along. Let's go. Another picture. Straight back again into the pelvis. Don't get tired. You're still looking at a dude. Been lying too long. Okay, another picture. Straight back again, straight into the pelvis, no arch, because you're looking at a dude pretending it's female. All right? Been pretending way too long. 100% man, no woman. Another picture, and this is the so-called Tim, the second husband that she had in Tim Montgomery, and I think this was their first. I don't know if it's one of the children that we already showed. I think this is the third child. And this thing right here on Oprah. Look at that. They're on Oprah. Been lying to you. Oprah been lying for you too way too long. This is a dude. And this guy is, I don't know if it's a guy or a girl right here, but we're just going off what we're seeing. So in the future, if you find out that this is female, we'll bring up a video. But for now, we call it a male. You can see right there. Oprah been lying. So how can you trust anything that comes out from your TV? If someone like Oprah, which I have classified as the most wicked woman in the world, in Oprah, you should not believe a word that comes out of that woman. She has nothing but lies and is manipulating your reality for you. Turn off your TV. Go research your world for real and see it for what it is. All right? And that's in with Tim Montgomery. The guy's name is Tim Montgomery. I don't know if I pronounced the name right. His name is Tim Montgomery all the same. But this doesn't change the fact that this Marion Jones has a straight back and is faking that she gave birth to this baby. She did not. This is not the face of a woman. This is not the face of a nursing mother. This is the face of a man because he has a straight back. And Tim Montgomery here is helping us by selling us the lie that this is a woman when it's not. It's a pity. It's a pitiful world we live in. Marion Jones again, straight back into the pelvis. There is no arch in that back. This is not the back of a woman. This is the back of a man. 100% man. No woman. All right. Another picture. Straight back. This one is so straight. I never seen this kind of back before on any female. So straight, it's not even subtle in any way. Because this is the back of a man, not a woman. Been lying too long. All right. Here's the last picture. This was the last picture. This is just a picture of another athlete I was trying to look into when looking at Marion Jones. And people, I want you to take a good look at this. Is this a woman? Is this someone who's competing in your sports? Because this person is from Ukraine. That means the Ukraine, that the so-called United States, which is actually the Vatican, is telling you guys that you're having problems with and shipping your millions of dollars, is also in with bed with the Vatican. They're selling us male sports persons as female in the Ukraine. And this one's name is Zana Pintusevich. So, this is a no woman. Oh, sorry to say, this is no woman. This is male. 100% man, straight back, and the widest point is above the crotch, not below it, because this is a man pretending also to be female. So I just put that picture up so for you guys to see that this thing is everywhere. It's not just in the United States. The whole world is under the power of the devil. It's under the Vatican. Alright, so I've come to the end of today's video. I hope you learned something on the myth of whiteness. If you have, I ask that you subscribe and stay tuned. And as usual, I leave you with these words. Look with your eyes, but see with your brain. Thanks and bye-bye.